In the threats section of the input wizard, we have some pre-configured threats with some more coming shortly that you're able to select from the drop-down menu. From here, you need to consider the threat in relation to the type of business that you're in. For example, if we select phishing as a threat for our restaurant business, the chance of losing market positioning is going to be low because phishing doesn't really impact a restaurant's ability to serve customers or make food any less tasty. You may find a slight decrease in people perhaps signing up for a newsletter or engaging on social media as a result of feeling like the business is less secure, so you can't say it will have no impact for certain, but this threat is actually fairly low to the business. So therefore, we've input 2 days of turnover loss, potentially where you'd close to fortify your IT infrastructure for high, medium and low impact users. The relative rate of sales in this instance would be around 80% of that whole day, as you wouldn't trade for those 24 hours, but you may have the residual turnover from the previous day, or even still be taking bookings for the rest of the week, for example. Workday loss for the users are all similar, as no one can work if the restaurants or head office are closed, but you could send in cleaning staff or wait staff to do checks, cleaning or paperwork whilst they wait for IT to finish, so you wouldn't lose as many days. Now, let's look at what happens with a larger threat. So click on the plus sign to the right hand side, which will add a new field for a new threat. In this example, we're going to be adding ransomware. So the chance of losing market positioning is medium because whilst the ransomware is on your system, you're unable to use any of the technology on the compromised network. This could be taking payments in the restaurant, ordering systems, and using other hardware. As you would need to remove the ransomware from the network, as well as any compromised devices, and then reinstall backups, you could be looking at over 3 to 4 days of turnover loss or more, depending on the amount of the system affected and the size of your business. Again, the relative rate of sales would be around 80%, but if the relative rate of sales is something that you're still unsure of, use 50% as a default percentage. Now, here is where there is a real difference compared to the first example, and it's in the workday loss for users. Think back to the company information section where we asked you to consider the ways different users will be affected by technology, and you'll be able to easily fill in this section. For example, high impact users will likely lose the full 3 to 4 days of working time whilst waiting to get things back up and running. However, this might be reduced if you have secondary sites or use the cloud and high impact staff are able to work from home. Filling in this section is also an excellent exercise for looking at your current procedures and protection in place, and can be an eye-opener on how responsive your organisation actually is to particular threats. Now, if you want to use a custom threat for your business that isn't on the list, perhaps it's something specific or unique to your industry, you can input it by going to the Add Threat Type box, typing in your threat, adding it to the threats list, and then selecting from the drop-down as normal. Note that these are not universal and are only relevant to your account, so you can add any threats you like without other users being able to see or select them themselves. You might also want to use Boardish to cover threats outside of cybersecurity or tech, for example to analyse and quantify the risk of fire and flood to your building, as well as non-technical issues like health and safety procedures. But we'll cover non-conventional uses of Boardish in another tutorial. For each threat you can enable or disable them. We recommend that you don't delete threats or solutions, particularly if you've completed any more steps after this point. This is because you'll need to delete the rest of the related information in each section to remove it entirely from your dashboard, and it can skew your results. If you have any questions or concerns about the threats section or want to better understand the threats facing your organisation, feel free to ask a question in our online Facebook community or drop us an email.